Well, good afternoon. No, good morning, everyone. God, I am. It's kind of funny coming back to this, really, because I've had to stay off YouTube for a little bit just so that I could actually try and post a video about Poison XIX without having to worry about my channel being closed down. And I've already tried once, and I went completely tits up. So, yeah, it is what it is. The previous video I had regarding, the girl who was allegedly attacked by Muslim men on the way home from school. I'd actually got the information wrong on that anyway, and I deleted the video because the previous video that I'd linked in the description has also gone off for whatever reason. But I don't want to focus too much on the whole Tommy Robinson thing because, I'll be honest, I'd rather be focusing on other things right now. So, what is it I want to talk about today without yawning my head off? Probably need to go get a coffee. Anyway, well, I wanted to talk about Poison XIX, obviously, but what I really wanted to discuss, I wish I could have discussed it on the day rather than having to wait 11 days just to be absolutely safe. The other reason I'm waiting this long is because then, if I get a strike again and I have to wait 2 weeks, I won't have to wait too much longer after that to post the video after that because the other strike will be gone. Anyway, I wanted to talk about the vaccine passport plans via this website that I've actually looked up, medicaldevicenetwork.com. But I will be linking the page in the description below for you to read at your own leisure as well. But basically, I will be reading from the article itself, and I'll also be giving my thoughts later on. So, let's start off with, obviously, the fact that it's written 13th of September, so it is a little old, but it's not like 6 years old. Days after plans were announced, UK Health Secretary Sajid Javid, or Sajjad, whatever you want to call him, said England will not be rolling out vaccine passports after all. Plans to introduce the Poison XIX vaccine passports for access to nightclubs and major indoor venues in England have been scrapped, according to the Health Secretary. While the vaccine passport plans will still be kept in reserve over autumn and winter, they are no longer set to be rolled out at the end of September. And I'll believe that when I fucking see it. On the 12th of September, Javid told the Andrew Marr show, I think people probably instinctively don't like the idea. I never liked the idea of saying to people you must show your papers for something to do what is just an everyday activity. Again, he's correct. Nobody wants this country to go into a papers please I'm trying to think of the word now. Nobody wants to go into a papers please authoritarian country setup. Nobody wants that. People want to be able to do their activities without having to bust out their vaccine passports or just passports in general just to say, look, I haven't got Poison XIX. I haven't wanted it, and I know a lot of sane people don't want that either. Anyway, last week, UK Vaccines Minister Nadhim Zawahi told the Andrew Marr show that vaccine passports were due to be rolled out in select settings by the end of September, when all people aged 18 or over would have been offered both doses of the Poison XIX vaccine. He described the scheme as the best way to keep venues open and avoid a winter lockdown. This is the same person who said, if I'm not much mistaken, that no one will be required to have a vaccine passport. I will be linking Politico's video on that particular point in the description below as well, so you can see it for yourself. But Nadhim Zawahi has already proven himself to be a complete fucking liar. Jesus. I mean, I guess I shouldn't really be surprised. It's a fucking politician. But even then, it just annoys me to no end that people think that we're stupid. That we don't listen. That we'll go along with it because we're just sheep. No, not everyone is a fucking sheeple, Nadhim Zawahi. And I will tell you right now, I am not a sheep. Anyway, moving on. Javid has now said that vaccine passports were not needed in England because of the factors in the country's wall of defence, such as the high vaccine uptake, testing, surveillance, and new treatments, aka the sheeple who've already gone out and gotten it. He has also said that it would be irresponsible to take everything off the table. He is not anticipating any more lockdowns. Scotland will still be pushing ahead with the vaccine passport plans and will be introducing them for entry to nightclubs and large events from October. The plans were formally approved by Holyrood after the SNP and Greens voted in favour, while the proposals were opposed by the Conservatives, Labour and Liberal anti-Democrats. In Wales, ministers will decide next week to introduce the vaccine passport scheme, so that would have been the 20th. There are no current plans for a similar scheme in Northern Ireland. And Javid has also said he wants to remove the UK's polymerase chain reaction test requirement when returning from some foreign countries as soon as he possibly can, saying that such measures should not be in place for a second longer than is absolutely necessary. The UK Competition and Markets Authority, or the CMA, recently published advice for the UK government on ways to improve the private PCR travel test market. The CMA said it risked a race to the bottom where providers compete on the grounds other than high clinical quality at the expense of travellers. Several key announcements and decisions were expected over the government over the next few days. 14th September, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is expected to outline his Poison XIX winter plan for England. The plan is expected to include contingency measures that would be implemented if the NHS is at risk of becoming overwhelmed. Speaking on a visit to Leicester on that day, Johnson revealed that booster jabs for Poison XIX for adults will be going ahead in the winter and have already been approved. Oh dear, I didn't expect a cough then. Oh God, I've got the virus. I've got the Poison XIX. Oh dear. Anyway, Labour's deputy leader, and this is on the voluntary vaccine passports, Labour's deputy leader Angela Rayner has said the government's approach to Poison XIX passports have been shambolic from the start, lacking clarity about the real purpose of the passports or how they would work in practice. Proponents of the scheme maintain that they minimise the spread of Poison XIX by only allowing fully vaccinated people who are less likely to contract and spread the disease in certain high-risk public places. They could also motivate people who are vaccine hesitant to get vaccinated to avoid losing access to these spaces. So, it's actually been proven that it's actually been put out by a Supreme Court, which doesn't surprise me in the slightest, but I believe it was the Andalusians, if I'm not much mistaken, that I will read this from here. The order of course that must be decided as stated by the Supreme Court whether the limitations of fundamental rights raised by the measures of the administration are suitable, necessary and proportionate, and it considers that the measure is not suitable or proportionate for the government of the purpose that is intended, that is the protection of life, health and physical integrity, to the extent that far from avoiding contagion inside the leisure premises, it can enable them, which is why it cannot be ratified by this chamber. In translation, what they're saying is that the vaccine passports or certificates or whatever could actually encourage contagion because there's no reliable way to prove that somebody has actually got Poison XIX. So if people are going in unknowingly, let's say 5 people go in unknowingly having Poison XIX, but they've given their certificate or their passport to say I am free of Poison XIX, then it could basically lead to spread of the virus. That's what it's saying here. So what are they trying to say now with this article now of that it will enable only allow fully vaccinated people inside? That's not going to change the fact that people are still going to get fucking infected. It doesn't matter how stringent you are on your measures. Short of you having like a freaking scanner, a medical scanner or something, or you test people on the sites, there is no way you have got a 100% chance of preventing Poison XIX from being spread in any of these establishments. I'm sorry, but that is just realism right here. You can't stop it. Because how do you tell when somebody has it or when they don't? People could cough or show symptoms of Poison XIX, but don't actually have it. Or likewise, it might just be an innocent cough, but then it will be perceived as it. There's so many factors in all this. And on top of that, if you're basically denying access to these public venues and spaces for anybody who hasn't been double jabbed or even triple jabbed, and like I've said, the only jabs I want to be giving are to the face of Boris Johnson, though I can't do that legally, of course. But that's beside the point. The point is, these measures to allow people who've had vaccinations to go into these venues, but not allow people who haven't had the vaccines entry, is discriminatory. It discriminates on medical grounds. Because now it's like, well, because I haven't had a vaccine, I can't go bowling, or I can't go to the cinemas, or I can't go to bingo, or I can't go anywhere. It's so discriminatory, and it just blows my freaking mind that the government thinks this is okay. That they think that there's nothing wrong with this. It really does get my goat. Anyway, I'm trying to remember where I got to. However, while the Poison XIX vaccines deployed in the UK against the disease have demonstrated impressive efficacy against hospitalization and death, I can't dispute that, it is still possible for someone who has received 2 vaccine doses to contract and spread Poison XIX. Well, at least they got that bit right. Working out the significance of the risks associated with this is a thorny business. If a disease no longer leads to significant numbers of hospitalizations, deaths, how relevant is its spread? Nevertheless, it's a complicated. I can't even read the words today. I've got an interview, like I said, later. Anyway, nevertheless, it's a complication that puts the passport policy on shakier ground. The incentive argument can also appear shaky, with some studies finding that they actually lead to feelings of coercion in vaccine-hesitant people and inadvertently make them less likely to be vaccinated. Despite the legal obligation, some large UK venues, such as football stadiums, live music venues, and music festivals, have already been asking people to prove their Poison XIX status to gain entry. The Premier League said at the start of the 21-22 season that fans would face random spot checks for their Poison XIX status, with attendees asked to show proof of vaccination or a recent negative test. Manchester United has implemented these spot checks on match days at Old Trafford and has said it expects full proof of vaccinations to become mandatory in the Premier League from the 1st of October, so a week's time today. Brighton, Chelsea and Tottenham football clubs have also introduced mandatory checks for their football fans at stadiums. This leads me back to the point I made before. What they're basically doing is they're stopping anybody who hasn't had the vaccine to Poison XIX from getting access to these venues. And I think that is fundamentally wrong. And I think anybody with more than 2 working brain cells will also agree with me on this. Just because you have or haven't had the vaccine should not mean that you're not allowed to go out and do the things you enjoy. Hell, we've seen Boris Johnson get absolutely sloshed out of his mind and have to be taken back by a taxi. He didn't have a face nappy on when they were putting all those regulations in that were saying we must wear the face nappies. Pot kettle black springs to mind. Likewise, I bet there are some MPs, some fucking hypocrites in there that haven't had the vaccine and are still going to be going to these places or still be allowed to go to these places. But it has been proven through parliamentary reports that these vaccine passports do discriminate against people through socio-ethnological class, sex, and I believe race, if I'm not much mistaken. Why are we importing this? Please explain. Anyways, ethical objections. The next article in this. Leisure industry executives have largely criticised the concept of vaccine passports, saying that they would cripple the industry and create conflict between customers and staff. God, I can't pronounce anything today. Anyway, the Night Times Industries Association and the Music Venue Trust have both welcomed the move to scrap the controversial passports, and I also agree with them. Ethical objections to vaccine passports have been raised by MPs across the political spectrum on libertarian grounds. Conservative MPs from the Poison Recovery Group have opposed the move, and Liberal anti-democrat leader Ed Davey has described vaccine passports as divisive, unworkable, and expensive. The UK Equality and Human Rights Commission, the EHRC, warned that Poison XIX status certificates could amount to unlawful discrimination and lead to a two-tier society of vaccinated and unvaccinated people. It's also noted vaccine passports could amount to discrimination against certain protected categories of people, including migrants, people from minority ethnic backgrounds, and people from poorer socio-economic groups due to lower vaccine uptake in these groups. What was I just saying the last 3 fucking minutes? Point proven. And the last section, antibody testing still a viable alternative. I'm not really fussed about this, to be brutally honest. I've discussed the main point of what was on this website, and that was the vaccine passports. And what is funny as well is, and this is just an alleged thing, but a close friend of mine has also suggested that these vaccines may contain traces of graphene. And apparently, the graphene is supposed to, according to experts, it's supposed to deactivate the virus because the graphene apparently deactivates certain strands of virus and all that. However, graphene has also been proven before to, in significant doses, cause respiratory problems and has caused problems for people by giving them asbestos level issues with their lungs and all that, the respiratory system. And by coincidence, what is Poison XIX? It's none other than a respiratory virus. So not only could this vaccine allegedly, because we don't know if it's true, but not only is there the potential that the vaccines may not be helping contain the spread of Poison XIX, but there's now the possibility that allegedly these things can cause problems with the virus through having respiratory problems later down the line. Very scary thought, no? I definitely think it's a very fucking scary concept. I don't know why it looks like I've got blood on my lip, but yeah. That'll teach me to keep yabbering on, I guess. Now, as I said, and I will emphasize this, that last point is merely allegedly. But if it is true, then it could lead to very, very serious problems. Hell, in some cases, there was a little bit of proof a while back where the vaccine was not preventing deaths. It may have been reducing them, but it wasn't completely preventing them a while back. I'm not going to sit here and say that the vaccine doesn't prevent a significant amount of deaths and hospitalizations. But I will say that we look at all of these conspiracy theorists, or I say conspiracy theorists loosely, because they were the people that came out and said that the government would import the Poison XIX vaccine passports. And they were laughed at and ridiculed and had the finger pointed at them that these passports would never come into play. And yet, the government seriously considered the passports. So it's not all that wild. There is no fucking tinfoil hat here. A lot of these theories that have been coming out, the factual conspiracy theorists, have been right. So at the very least, we have to take everything the government is saying and question it. Question everything. Question the virus. Question the vaccine. Question what's in said vaccine. We have to get to the bottom of this. Because right now, we are in real danger of being put into this papers, please environment where we are forced to show whether or not we have had the virus or Poison XIX or whatever you want to call it. And we have to show that, otherwise we don't get to do anything. And as I've said, it already has been proven to discriminate by a race, socio-ethnological class, or socio-economical groups, and sex. Parliamentary reports have said this, by the way. This isn't just, it's a 30-year-old boy who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about and he's just ranting and raving. No, there are parliamentary reports out there that are saying that it discriminates against people. Article 8 of the Human Rights Act. And what these passports would do is basically force people, if they want to do anything other than sit at home and do nothing, it forces them to go out and get the jab, even if the jab isn't compulsory per se. Like I said, we have to question everything. The government cannot be trusted. The media cannot be trusted. The left-wing establishments cannot be trusted. And I sure as shit won't be trusting anyone. If I would dare to take the vaccine, I would categorically have a contract with these people to say, you are knowingly going to be held accountable, responsible, if anything untoward happens to myself in relations to me taking this vaccine. If it causes any health problems down the line. That way, the people who give it to me can be held responsible, held to account, and taken to the courts if things go tits up. That is my stance on this whole thing. I didn't get the vaccine back in March, or whenever it first started last year. I sure as shit ain't going to be getting it now. And hell, there would be people who even say, well, I'm in the more vulnerable group. I'm certainly overweight. I'll give you that. I'm not exactly sitting here like, I don't know, some 120-pound role model here. I'm certainly not a slim guy. I'll say that much. And I'm sure the trolls will also say that as well, but the trolls, I couldn't care less what they have to say, to be honest. But the point is, I am technically in the vulnerable category. I don't want the vaccine because I don't know what's in it, and I'm not going to be a guinea pig for our establishment. I can understand different groups of people who may want to take the vaccine, such as the elderly, or those who have had respiratory problems or maybe heart problems before, because they are much more vulnerable than what I could potentially be, although I am still pretty fucking vulnerable. But I would not trust our government one little bit over this whole thing. They have been pushing this papers, please thing onto us. The flatten the curve bullshit that I'm sure we've got a problem we'll continue to talk about. The same guy who is usually absolutely spot on with all of his things. I probably need to link his channel in the description as well, just so that you guys can go and listen to him. He swears a lot more than I do, but it is what it is. I mean, just because somebody swears a lot doesn't necessarily mean they're any less intelligent. It can make things a bit unsavory. I can't even get the words out. It can make it a bit unsavory, which I appreciate, but I'll be honest. I don't think it really matters that much. And you know what's really sad? We've had Tony the fucking liar Blair tell us that we should be having these medical treatments. Hell, even the Pope or the Vatican is joining these lunatics that are saying we need medical passports in our establishment, in our society. No, we do not need these in our society. Unfortunately for you lot, people are waking up, if they weren't already. And I continue to pray for those people that are fighting the good fight, that are going out there actively and fighting the establishment and trying to change people's minds and try to get people on the right side of history. Because the way I'm looking at this right now is we are in a situation where, like I said, we could be ending up in a papers, please environment for Poison XIX. I don't want it. And I'm sure a lot of other people don't want it. And when I say we can't trust the media as well, I do mean that 100%. Hell, the BBC has been known to cut off callers. And Good Morning Britain also tries to cut off people or conveniently disrupt the connection between certain people amongst one another. They will disrupt the connection just so that they can silence them or just stop the truth being held or put out there. We have to question everything. I can't emphasize this enough. Because otherwise we're all going to be up shit creek without a paddle. Anyway, I think I've gone on long enough. I mean, it's been nearly half an hour, and I think at this point, it's just waffling. But yeah, as long as YouTube doesn't try and strike me down again, I will keep trying to put out more videos relating to Poison XIX, and I will try to give you the facts where I can. I'll try to point out the problems and the critiques I have with some of the things that are going on here, because people need to know. People need to understand that we are in a position where our country is either going to go down the pan or up to the stars in the next, I'd probably say, 6 to 9 months. We are a driving force. Do not let the government control us. Whether you take the vaccine or not should be a personal choice. It should not be forced. If you don't want to take the vaccine, that's fine. If you do want to take the vaccine, that's fine. But don't sit in your seats of power and try to force everyone to take the vaccine. Because I'll guarantee you this. As soon as you start taking shots to the people who don't want it, and you force them to take those Poison XIX vaccine jabs, as soon as you force them into a position where they have no choice but to do anything, and you violate their human rights, you will very quickly find out that the British people will not be pushed around. They will fight back, and they will reclaim the country that our traitorous politicians and our corrupt government have been taking away from us over the last 6 or so years. My name is Dabima, or Abba the Rex, whichever you prefer. And I am, as always, very, very bad news for this corrupted establishment and the papers please they're trying to push. The fake news media who wants to continue to silence the truth. And, of course, those corrupted people at YouTube who want to silence people who have a differing opinion of Poison XIX, who are afraid of people finding out that there's more than one side to a story. And I wish you all a good day. Thank you for watching.